Uh, Thank you, Jack. And now we are going to welcome our next speaker from Fey Lab. It's an innovative research tool designed to strike a unique balance between affordable and high quality information.
Hi, I'm Matthew Knipfa. Actually, it's awesome that Jack is here because we're one of the companies that use Polygon. Polygon is awesome. I can't recommend them enough. They undergird like most of our company. So Fey Labs, we make a tool. It's Fey. I mean, not too surprising based on the name. Um, and has anyone here used a Bloomberg terminal? Like, if you have used a Bloomberg terminal, like, go ahead and raise your hand. Have used a Bloomberg terminal. No one actually. Interesting. Okay, so Bloomberg Terminal is the industry standard, like in the finance industry, for where you get like financial market information. It's got all the stocks you need, fixed income options, everything like that. It's super robust and it's insanely expensive. For one workstation of a Bloomberg Terminal, it's $27,000 a year. And that's going to be the 6-monitor setup. You're sitting in the matrix there at your office, and you're trading like millions of dollars. So like you kind of sneeze at $27,000 annually. It's not too big of a deal. But what if you're a student? Like, what if you're university and you're trying to train 2,000 finance students, or maybe like 500 in your finance department? Well, Bloomberg does have favorable financing for like academics. You can get like 12 seats for notably cheaper. Essentially, the cost of 3 gets you 12. At the end of the day, though, like servicing a class of 30 students is well over $100,000 annually. And then you need to have the classes that come through. And then, like, how do you do homework on that when you've got like, yeah, I see the now right there. So you end up with this challenge of like, how do you give access to like a lot of markets data to all these students so they can just like do their homework on a regular basis? I mean, currently what we've seen is that a lot of classes don't actually include live markets. You use sort of like dead data, you use like previous stuff before, and your financial information gets out of date. And part of the interesting thing about doing finance is like you get to see like, oh, here is the most recent financial report. So a typical challenge that I got to see when I was going through school was like, you're in your 1 or 2,000 level financial management course. You get a few weeks in, maybe halfway through the semester, and the professor says, all right, we're gonna do a group project. Go ahead and split up into groups, pick a company, and do a report on it. And you all split up, and there's maybe like 5 groups. And he's like, all right, which company did you pick? And the first one that always goes at any sort of private university I've gone to, it's always Lululemon. And then half the class grumbles, like, oh no, that was my company. And then the professor goes to the next one, what's your company? And they might say Apple, that one's always up there. But somewhere in that chain, someone's company was already taken and they go scramble to find a new company. And they go find just the most, 15C2-11 caveat emptor, like dark defunct security. They go find it on Reddit in like 30 seconds. And then they go home to do their project. And that night, the professor gets an email and it's like, hey, turns out there wasn't any information on my company on Yahoo Finance. Can I get a new one? And then they get another email for that like same thing. And it happens across like the 5 classes that they teach, all the 5 different sections. And then even once they've gotten the company sorted out, the students need to go actually do their homework. So what do? They get out of class, they go to like the local coffee shop on campus. They're doing work there. And the work that they do is the work that they can do because they have their textbooks or they have all the information they need. And they always put off going over to the Bloomberg lab and logging on. And then it gets like, 5 or 6 p.m. And friends are like, hey, you want to go get dinner? And then they go do that. And they're like, oh, I'll go to the Bloomberg lab at like 8 or 9 p.m. I think it's like 8 or 9. And the friends want to hang out later. And then eventually they go to bed and they're like, oh, I'll wake up early and go to the lab. They never go to the lab. And the professor once again gets like 10 extension requests. So, these schools are paying well into the 6 figures And ultimately, a lot of the students aren't actually using any of that. So, we're providing actually a research interface that is admittedly not as robust as Bloomberg, but it's 1% the cost. You can install it on any student's device. It does have global markets. It's got robust financial data sheets. And, honestly, you can just tell the students that they got to do their homework. Like, no more excuses. And from the student's perspective, it's really enjoyable because now you actually get to look at like global markets live. So I'm just going to poke around the interface a little bit. Like we've got the home screen here, GM, we can go to global markets there. All of this is keyboard shortcut accessible. It'll teach you if you hover over it. We got news, so go news. We can pull up a specific stock. So let's go ahead and pull up like Lululemon, for example. We've got all of that. We can cycle through the pricing. And the coolest part is financials right there. So we can pull up like quarterly financials, annual. We can cycle through the income statement, the balance sheet, cash flow. We can search for export if you'd like to get historical financials, historical prices. And then also, one of the cool things is that we actually have an AI tool. So reading a 10Q is not particularly fun, but they're really meaningful. And if you can just get an overview before you even get into the 10Q, it actually really helps with comprehending the document thereafter. So we actually built a tool for summarizing 10Qs. We're going to be expanding it to 10Ks. And we've actually had quite a few private equity firms reach out to us wanting us to expand it to things like including conference calls, any other SEC filing, any other report like that. And also, if you want to go, pull up the SEC document, we've got it right there. So all of this it was originally intended for retail. It was actually intended for traders originally. And I was the one who sort of really pushed the company to extend this to academia because I remembered my own experience having a few financial courses and the fact that my school had one Bloomberg terminal and it's kind of like one is none. And some schools also pay for Capital IQ. Once again, that's like a $27,000 cost. That one's at least accessible. You can go log on that on your own computer. But once again, when I actually will go to these schools and I'll ask them, what are you making use of? Like you're paying all this money. How much are you using it? And a lot of them don't even make use of that. So for some schools, depending on the size, we're able to help a school that really wasn't using any of the financial stack they were paying for, save, $250,000 over a few years and give every student access to financial markets on their own device. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot. I went ahead and messaged our engineer during the other presentations. All NYU.edu addresses do have free access through the rest of the year. So if you would like to actually go, I see the excitement. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so if you want to go download it right after the presentation, feel free to do so. Give it a shot. And you can actually email me directly. It's just matthew@feyapp.com. I should actually show the address there. So feyapp.com. Sign up, use your EDU address, you'll get free access. And then, yeah, just matthew@feyapp.com. Send me any requests, any feedback. We are just I love how excited you are right now. Yeah, we're working with a lot of schools right now, and it's a long cycle before budgets make decisions. And there's just so much that we're happy to build. So thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for the free trial. And